It's really good practice to do on your own, to see yourself, what that actually looks like, to hear yourself when you're talking. All right, so let's talk about being a successful woman that has low self-esteem. Yes, it doesn't really seem like those things would go together. You're looking at this person that has amassed a certain level of business. Maybe you've achieved a couple of degrees. You're doing very well for yourself. And yet you are the person in the room who doubts themselves. You look at yourself in a negative light. You have that internal kind of dialogue that isn't very friendly to you. And it is something that is holding you back. It is probably holding you back at a certain level of your business, of your education, excuse me. And it is something that definitely is going to show up in your relationships as well, which is primarily what this channel is about as well, is to get you to the goal of love and marriage. Wonderful, wonderful marriage. And yet, so let's focus back in. We're just going to talk though first about your low self-esteem. So we could go into where is it coming from and what was it, something that happened in your childhood or something you went through that is causing that. However, since we're kind of past that, I'm assuming you're probably a little older and you're watching my channel, you're more in your adult years, just starting to try and figure out what you can do on a daily basis to help get you out and move you forward from this type of thinking. Definitely though, you're going to have to start to change that inner dialogue that you have in your mind. And that would start by questioning certain thoughts that you have on a daily basis, possibly even writing some of those thoughts down to figure out kind of the train of thought of how you got there. So, and it's not really this big process as much as you think it might be. Sometimes there's a usual pattern of thought. So you're either going to have maybe 2 or 3 consistent thoughts that come up, and that's what causes that self-esteem to feel low. It's what causes you to be hesitant in making decisions. It causes you to be a little quieter in certain meetings or things that you should assert yourself. And that's the second part to this, is learning to assert yourself. I believe I mentioned in a previous video about how to practice being assertive. So using a mirror kind of thing, you're practicing, you're looking at yourself and you're hearing yourself. So doing this before you get to the point where you're actually going to have to use your assertiveness. It's really good practice to do on your own, to see yourself, what that actually looks like, to hear yourself when you're talking. And so that way, when you get to the point of actually needing your assertive self, it's much, much easier to do. And starting to hear your assertive self in your mind, so that way you can challenge those thoughts, challenge that pattern of thought that you've been using for so long. You are in a position of doing great things. You have a business, you have whatever you have going on in your life, and you're just having that doubt thought come up. Start to pick at it, start to get rid of it, start to break it down, because it's just that limitation that you have. If you've ever really thought into it about how it affects you on a daily basis or how it's affected you through the years, I'm sure that you can look back at certain situations and realize that I could have been doing something else there. I could have gotten better results there had I not had that pattern of thought that was limiting me from being very present, very focused in that moment. And so that's what you want to do. We want to really get into breaking down those patterns of thoughts that are limiting, right? So you're a successful person though, but that self-worth has got to come back up. It's got to be consistent if you're going to just feel very present and be able to connect with people, be able to connect with yourself. Most important is connecting with yourself so that you can connect with others and that you can connect eventually with somebody that you want to be in love with. And ultimately, this one might be tricky to understand. We do certain things that please us, that give us something, even if it's a negative thing that we're doing. So sometimes, say for instance, we have a habit of eating something and maybe it doesn't really sit well with our stomach, yet you eat it anyway. So thinking about that, and yet thinking about it in the way that you're even, the thoughts that you're using on a daily basis, they are serving some kind of purpose, and they've been there for quite a while, and they've been serving some kind of purpose. So in order to get rid of those thoughts, also having to acknowledge, what have they been doing for you? Take a deep breath. Have those thoughts been comfortable for you so that you didn't have to do that extra thing, to do that bigger step, to take that leap of faith in that relationship? That thought has allowed you to stay very comfortable over here to not do this thing that you know you want to do, you know you can do. So think into it. Maybe it is time to get rid of it. It's time to let it go. Time to challenge it, erase it, replace it, however you want to go about it. Take some time, think it through. Let's challenge that. Let's have some new thoughts. And yes, think it through. Let me know what you think below. Leave a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Take care.